Okay. Good evening. It is now, past 6 o'clock by a minute or two. Let's call the Planning Commission meeting for Monday, July 22nd to order. Please call the roll.
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer. Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Here. We have a quorum. First up, before we hit the meat of the agenda, item 4A, Nancy and Jim Bolton, a two-lot land division. That item has been canceled. If you're here for that, we'll take it up in September when we reconvene. There's no meeting in August. With that, we have a public hearing item. I guess we do need to approve the minutes, don't we? How about is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I have a
Okay, you can make a motion or you can make a comment. Either way.
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
Which it's pertaining to last month's our discussion for the site that's the real estate for orchards of Mequon, and the discussion that I brought up about a left turn lane, and it really wasn't a left turn lane, but I just wanted to emphasize that my concern was for left turns coming out of the site with eastbound Donges Bay traffic, and it wasn't real clear that way. And it's perhaps what I said. Maybe I misspoke.
We can amend that, make that change.
So.
Well, just so I understand, because I didn't get that impression either, but
And in retrospect, maybe I misspoke, and if I did, I apologize.
I thought it was left turns coming into it.
It was, well, that was a part of it, but the part that I really was concerned about is traffic on Donges Bay, being able to see people that are coming out and then turning left to to go eastbound on Donges Bay. And so it's eastbound traffic on Donges Bay, not seeing the left turns to go eastbound. And so that was probably, if I didn't come through clearly, I'm sorry.
I understand. We'll get the minutes amended. Are there any other comments or questions on the minutes?
Move to approve the amendment.
Motion to approve as amended by, we just discussed. Is there a second? There's
I'll
a
second it.
motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. Our first item now, thank you, is a public hearing. Mohammed Insatef, applicant is seeking a conditional use grant approval for an automotive service facility for the property located at 10650 North Bear Road, Suite AB. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are now in public hearing. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on this item? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are back in regular session. Any discussion on this item or a motion? Or any questions from staff?
Motion to approve per city's comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. Last chance on comments and questions. Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that item is approved. Next is the consent agenda. Item 3A will be taken off consent and will be taken up right after the rest of the consent agenda, which is a singular item for a fill permit. Is there a motion on the singular consent agenda item 3B? Or do we?
I had a question on it,
Okay.
but I don't think we have to take it off the consent agenda to address my question procedurally, right?
I don't think we do. We just don't have to discuss it in depth. So comments are always appropriate, or motions and before comments are also appropriate. What is your question?
I would move approval. My question was on, it's page, let me get there. There was a letter dated, this applicant has a lot of thorough documentation around, letters from the DNR, Army Corps of Engineers. The most recent letter that's dated from the DNR, 6/18/24, just says, our field staff are currently evaluating your proposal. And this could just be, this is maybe just my ignorance. Does that mean there's still something outstanding that they're waiting for approval on? Or is it, per the staff recommendations, it sounded like it was all in order? That one just made it sound like there was something that they were waiting for.
I believe they have everything they need from our perspective to proceed.
Yeah, I think they've got everything they need from us, but they may have something outstanding from the DNR, but that's one of the conditions of the approval is to get that
Right,
all buttoned
right.
up.
I continue my first staff recommendation.
Excuse me, sir. Are you here to speak about this item? Oh, okay. We're not quite to you yet, but yeah, settle in. That's fine. Yeah, we'll catch up. So we have a motion. Did someone second that? I don't think so.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that item is approved. That'll bring us to, we'll take up the consent agenda item that was taken off consent. Take that up first. Ralph Morello and Judith A. Morello Revocable Trust. Applicant is seeking a certified survey map approval to allow for a two-lot land subdivision for the property located at 10050 North Range Line Road. Perhaps a quick overview from staff to catch us up. This item was before us last month in a different form, much different form, and this is the output of that meeting.
So yeah, this is a two-lot land division on Range Line Road. I came to Planning Commission for consultation in May to give the applicant options with access and maybe some waivers to code requirements for private driveway. This would create two lots. Lot 1 would be 2.2 acres. Lot 2 would be 3.275 acres. Both are consistent with the zoning and can fit a 40 by 60 building pad pretty easily. So staff moves to approve with conditions.
Okay, I take it, Mr. Morello, is this?
All right.
Take it you have some comments on the staff conditions?
I'm not agreeing totally with what staff did, so I have my statement here. I reviewed the staff's recommendations for my requested land division at my current address. I am requesting that the commission grant SSLD waivers for 3.2.9A, which the staff has recommended, and 3.2.9C, which the staff denied. Both waivers should be granted for the following reasons. 1, the CSM I am proposing was approved by the Planning Commission in 1996. It allowed for access over the existing private drive. The CSM filing deadline expired due to issues with an adjacent lot which I did not own. Therefore, it did not get filed. 2, this division is not a new development. In 1992, I purchased parcel 2 as shown on my proposed CSM. Parcel 2 had access to Range Line Road over the now existing 14-foot private driveway. A new CSM 2457 approved by the Plan Commission added parcel 2 to my existing lot, creating the current 5.47 acre parcel. The precedent for my request in the original 1980 development showing CSM 1289 Lot 2 lies directly to the east of my Lot 1 on, as you can see up there. At the same time in 1992, as I purchased Lot 2 on my proposed CSM, the owner of the lot directly to the east of me purchased a 2.89 acre parcel south of his existing lot, which would be east of where Lot 2 shows back there. The attached 2.89 acre parcel was a part of CSM 2457. The owners later decided to sell their property and requested a land division back to the 1992 configuration. The commission granted the division as shown on CSM 3106, restoring the fifth lot, 2.89 acres, with access to Range Line Road over the existing driveway. My requested waivers would allow me the same consideration given to the owner of this lot directly east of my original property. 3, after reviewing the Planning Commission's consulting meeting on this in May, I decided that the proposed land division that I have would be the best alternative. Commissioner Strelzik stated, if in a land division a parcel was added and a later request was made to divide it back to its original configuration, that division would be grandfathered in. That is exactly what this land division does. So I am saying that I should get both waivers and not have to widen the driveway.
Could you clarify again which two staff conditions you were, I'm guessing one is the driveway
me?
width, condition 9.
Sorry, Mayor, I didn't understand you.
Which of there's 12 staff conditions. Which two are you,
It wasn't a staff person, it was one of the commissioners who said that.
no, I'm in the written documents for the materials in front of us. Which two staff conditions? You cited some sections, I just would like to, to repeat them.
What were the two subsections? One was they granted me the right to not have to put in a cul-de-sac, but they denied me the right to use the existing driveway. They said I had to widen the driveway from its current 14 feet to 18 feet
I think that's condition
in
12.
order to use this lot.
Condition 12, okay,
Yep.
condition 12.
Of course, I purchased this lot under
So
those statutes. I don't know when the changed or whatever, when you went from more than four to a driveway and a roadway instead of a driveway. But I should certainly be grandfathered in because I had that. I had asked for the division before, and now I come here and you're saying, well, it's a whole new ballgame. Well, what about all the ones that have more than 4 on them right now? Are you gonna force them to put in a wider driveway? I mean, come on, you're doing the same thing to me here.
I think this is different in that we're not clawing back anyone who's built a subdivision. This is adding more lots to an existing subdivision. That ordinance got changed, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years ago, somewhere in that time frame. So that's what's on the books now, is any shared driveway, we're asking people for wider than 14 feet to ease driveway conflicts between people driving there and to make it easier for fire apparatus to get in and out. So that
So that was
there-
an
I-
incorrect statement, saying I would have been grandfathered in?
I think I think what Alderman Strelchak said at the time was, if you had done it at that time, you would have been grandfathered
Sorry,
in.
I've gone through that video at least 10 times. That is not what he said. He
Well,
said
we're not
if
going to review
someone-
we're not going to review the video in real time here in this meeting. The best I can give you is to table this and bring it back next time we meet, and we can review that in the meantime. That is not my recollection, or I don't think any other commissioner's recollection. Maybe I'll poll the group. Does anyone recall hearing anything along those lines?
I don't remember in that level of detail, that you watched the video.
Commissioner Parrish.
Thank you. I wasn't at the previous meeting, so I can't tell you. I wasn't at the previous meeting, so I can't tell you my recollection. And maybe you do want to have us table it so you could research this a little bit further. One of my questions, are you disputing the need for a cul-de-sac at the end of it, or it's just the width of the driveway that you're?
No, staff has said they waived one portion, but they denied the other, which is saying I have to take the 14-foot driveway, create a roadway, which is 18 feet. So that's 4 feet of pavement, 4 feet of shoulders. That would entail taking down many trees, extending culverts, changing all of the drainage. This is not some simple 5-minute deal. And the Lot 5 already has access over that private drive, and I'm just asking for the same treatment as they got.
So for those that weren't here last time, there was this proposal and some other components to it that accompanied it, and the outcome of the meeting was that if we were to add more lots, the commission desired to see the roadway roadway widened to a certain point. I think staff chose the natural bend where it goes from east-west to north-south, where there's an existing cul-de-sac, as the point where they would not require it to be extended the full length. But that was the direction of the commission at the last meeting, as I recall. I don't remember Commissioner Strelchuk talking about changing it back and forgetting, like, you're basically asking us to forget that the last 30 years of history in Mequon happened and we passed ordinances in the meantime, so.
Okay, one more thing. I have made a big concession here with this CSM. If I put in and have to put in a widened roadway, and we've gone through it with staff, I will then be adding 2 lots, not 1. So we will go to 7, because you can have up to 10 lots on a private driveway. I have 8.5 acres, so I can divide it even further. And we did present that. I wanted to avoid all of the hassle of this widening the driveway, and it's going to be very disruptive. I do not intend to develop this lot. It is going to sit idle, just like Lot 5 has, which I purchased from the owners who did get access over the private driveway. I have been sitting on that land for 32 years. My wife and I are going to stay there. It is going to stay exactly the same until we leave. The next owner may or may not want to put traffic on and develop that lot. I can't tell you if that lot will ever be developed, but I don't intend to develop it. But if I'm forced to widen that driveway, I will widen the driveway. I will come back with a 2-lot CSM, and I will proceed to not only widen the driveway, but develop those lots. So my neighbors who don't want me to do anything, think I shouldn't be able to do anything, are now saddled with, and I would think if they thought about it, they would come and ask you to give me the waiver so things would stay the same they are, not put in a road and 2 more lots.
If you wanted to stay the way they are, you could just choose not to do the land division. If you wanted to keep things the same as they are, you could choose not to do the land division. That is an option. We're not going to, I don't think we should debate this. It's veering far off what we've got before us for our materials. And if you want to do a 2-lot land division and you want to develop the lots, that'd be certainly your right as the landowner. Any other comments or feedback from the commission? Or is there a motion to table, perhaps?
Could you just tell me why I'm not grandfathered in?
The regulations for the standard development code changed in the 30 years you owned the property. It's just reflective of what the code is now. We've granted waivers when there's been a small number of lots, but this is getting to be larger than, there's already 5 houses here now. There's an undeveloped lot, now there'll be 2 undeveloped lots. We have to treat those instances like they're going to be developed someday. And if the infrastructure's not there, we're just kicking the can down the road. Commissioner Chorn.
Well, it's kind of irrelevant what Alderman Strelchuk may have said or may not have said at the last meeting, it all goes back to the rules, the present rules, correct?
Correct. I mean, we can waive whatever we want, but we start setting precedences, and then everyone will want a waiver. That's the slippery slope we have to try to avoid. Commissioner Urbani.
I have a question, probably for staff or maybe for you, Mayor. If this is a private driveway, and if it were not widened, if a fire truck could not fit, or something like that, whose responsibility would it be? Would the fire truck just go as far as they can and then not help the houses at the end? How would that work?
You can drive down a 14-foot width, but you can't drive anything else with it.
Are the property owners required to keep it clear of branches and things like that, height-wise, to allow accessibility?
I'm not sure all the regulations of private drives, but it would certainly be to their benefit to do that. They have to get in and out every day.
I mean, there is an easement, but we don't go out looking at these to make sure they're keeping branches clear and things like that. I think from the fire chief's standpoint is if there's a fire, he's gonna get to it and run over everything he needs to get to it. But the reason this was changed was to at least put some standards in place, so we had some regulations. And, you know, again, we've waived some of the smaller ones, as the mayor said. Hannah Boyd was one that was waived because it was a 2-lot. I don't recall any ones that were waived at this many lots, but there are issues with existing circumstances. So, you know, we had to put something in place. We knew we were gonna cause these issues in the future, but we had to just put something in place so we had something going forward, basically.
Yeah, there's some of these over on the east side of Mequon that are just horrendous, where it's literally like an 8 or 10-foot strip, and there's cars in conflict all the time. This isn't quite that bad, but that's why there's regulations in place now. We used to not regulate it at all.
Well, originally we had a little policy written on a piece of paper that we kind of tried to enforce, and then we finally turned that into a part of the ordinance,
Yeah.
so that we had something official.
Municipal code, where it's available online where everyone can see it, is a lot better than the slip of paper tucked in a desk drawer somewhere,
Yes.
which
I
is
guess
the
I
way it
was-
ran back in the 80s and 90s.
I wanted to remind you there was somebody that chose to speak on this item.
Well, you're right, there is. We can take public comment. Gary Quirk opposes and wishes to speak, 10052 North Range Line Road.
Thank you. I'm representing the 3 property owners that live off of the private driveway that's under discussion now. Mr. Morello does not own and have sole rights over that driveway. We collectively maintain and look after that driveway, and it is the only point of access and egress to our properties. So any changes to that driveway, and it's very glib to sit there and say, I will widen the driveway and I will do this and that. That's not the case. To widen that driveway will be major disruption to our properties and our access to those properties. So we cannot just let that happen. We need to understand what the consequences of that are. Now, at the moment, it's a 14-foot driveway with some room either side. It is maintained. It's kept clear. We jointly pay for that. Mr. Morello arranges that, and we all chip in for that. That's good. However, even if it's widened, the access to our properties will be impacted by any commercial vehicles, any construction traffic that will have to obviously access the 2 plots or 3 plots, whatever it is, that Mr. Morello is referring to. So I would ask the committee to take into account that it is not just about Mr. Morello's application, it is about our right of access, which we have legally, across that driveway to get to our properties. There is no other way to get to those properties. When I read the engineering report, there are some comments that I don't fully understand, but bottom line is, it strikes me that to grant the waiver, you would have to break some of the ordinances that are currently in place. Now, fine, that's your decision. We're not suggesting otherwise. But we'd ask you to think carefully about that because of the direct impacts that it will have upon us. The other thing, just finally, is given that we collectively pay for and maintain that roadway, any damage that's done to it, any changes to it, we need to be consulted and we need to be part of that discussion. It cannot just be done solely as an application, Mr. Morello asking to change these things, because again, it has direct impact upon us. So that was the message that I wanted to give. We have no concern with Mr. Morello wanting to develop the plots of land that he owns, even though he has told us in the past that he's not going to do that. But that's by the by. But I would ask that you do consider that there are 3 other properties beyond these lots that are being spoken about that rely upon that driveway for our sole egress and ingress. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
I normally don't ask questions, but do you have a private private roadway corporation?
Not a corporation, no, but we have legal access rights across the roadway.
Well, that's understood, but
Yep.
generally these situations, there's a legal document outlining the agreement for everyone who pays for what.
I think we have an agreement that we will collectively pay for that, but I don't have the documents with me. We can look and provide them.
Well, yeah, there's an easement, but then there's
I can
usually a
address
maintenance
that for you,
agreement.
Mayor. There is a legal document, and they have a non-exclusive easement right to use that driveway. In that non-exclusive, they have to help pay for the costs. However, Lot 1, which is my lot, controls what is done with that driveway, including maintenance, including additions, subtractions, whatever. All of the power for that roadway lists in a document that we're all a part of the right to do things to that driveway. No one else has that right. So he can sit up here and say things, but he has not read the documents.
Excuse me,
Well,
Or a legal
well-
document saying what goes on with that driveway.
But we'll have a debate amongst you guys at a different meeting on your own. You have anything else for the commission?
No, I just,
Okay.
that's not correct.
I don't
we
want
do
to
not.
create
No,
another
I
meeting within a
appreciate that.
meeting.
I appreciate that, but I would ask that you consider beyond just this application.
I do have copies of those easements that I'm talking about
Thank you,
with
Mr.
me
Quirk.
today.
I see one other person raising their hand. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Susie Bratz, 10054 North Range Line Road. I just wanted to make a clarification. I thought I heard you say there was a cul-de-sac on our driveway. There's not.
That's what
There's no cul-de-sac. So the
I think there's one
driveway,
drawn, but
Just an
Pub-
L, right?
so we have a cul-de-sac. I mean, we have a turnaround, and we all have turnarounds in our own individual driveways, but there's no public cul-de-sac. So I just wanted to make that clarification. And the documents that Mr. Morello is referring to, none of us have ever seen or signed, so you maybe got signatures from previous homeowners?
I'm sorry, if you bought the house, you got the
Okay.
documents.
okay. Different meeting you guys can have outside of here. Sorry, I'm gonna have to cut that off.
If you want copies, we'll give
Commissioner
you
Schaefer.
copies.
I originally was going to say ask about what the goal might be of tabling, and at this point, I've changed my mind, and I think it should be tabled because I think there's enough legality questions that are outside of the purview of this commission that probably need to be addressed before it comes back forward. But I would also defer to staff if they feel like perhaps, I don't know if any of this is new information. When I was going through the packet, I was overwhelmed, and I was hoping that Commissioner Dan was going to be here because some of this is within his area of expertise, but it is, he agreed, I think it's a lot. It's a lot of historical documentation. So kudos to you for maintaining all of that. Because it is important to have the history. It sounds like there's perhaps some differing opinions as to what the legal rights are of the few homeowners that are on that
Okay,
road. So I'm not sure I am sure that that is not something that is in our purview.
you know, my neighbors have enjoyed the benefit of my investment in 2 lots over 30 years. I pay for the taxes. I pay for the upkeep. I have over $30,000 in ash tree removals. I do all of that, and they have enjoyed the benefit of that, and they're up here fighting me
Well,
for what
that,
reason I
be
don't
that
know.
as it
But I
may,
want to conclude.
be that as
Am
it
I
may, it
gonna
has
get a
nothing to do with
waiver
this
or am I
decision.
not gonna get a waiver.
Pardon?
That's up to the plan. You can give me a waiver or deny it, and that's the end of it.
I think we were quite clear what we wanted at the last meeting, and staff tried to write up this approval with that in mind. So if we're going to table a couple of actions, staff will review the tape and we'll try to conclude what Alderman Strelchak stated and how it pertained to the conversation at hand, and we'll wrap our arms around that. But we have not done that review. ahead of this meeting, so I'm not even prepared to comment on it. I don't recall it that way. That's all I can say. I haven't not gone back and looked at the tape. And then on your end, Mr. Morello, I think if there's a written agreement that all parties are party to maintain that roadway, it better be understood by all and be part of the next submittal so that we understand that it exists and pertains to everything. It's all hearsay, and unless I have it in the packet, I can't even comment on it.
Want me to bring it up to you?
We do have.
No, I would like it to be part of the next packet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have the document, and as part of any CSM that goes through with access agreements that the city's not a party to, just like this, we just add the condition that city attorney reviews them for legality, make sure the form's correct and everything like that. But if you guys are more comfortable having a city attorney review it prior to the next meeting, we could certainly do that if you guys table it.
I second the motion.
Well, we've got a motion and a second. Dang it, that's non-debatable now by Robert's rules. Did you? Maybe you didn't. No, she said she was thinking about it. She did not make a. Okay. Okay, so if we want to have discussion, don't make that motion yet. Commissioner Parrish.
Yeah, I sure would love to hear Commissioner Gentis's opinion, but if staff stands behind its 12 points of recommendations and you have no legal concerns, I think it is our purview to vote on this tonight. We can table it. I don't really care. I won't be at the next meeting unless Alderman Strelchuk can't make it again. But they've done a lot of work to get to this point, and I didn't quite hear any of the neighbors objecting to staff's recommendations. I believe the neighbors are objecting to removing point number 12. So I don't quite follow the benefit of tabling unless staff wants to review it again with legal. So how do you feel? Is it properly written?
I think it is. I mean, if you would approve it with these conditions, I mean, it would be, and Mr. Morello has to widen the driveway. It would be his responsibility to work out all the private property agreements and work through that aspect of it. I mean, the Planning Commission doesn't have purview over the private property agreements other than knowing that it exists and it's in a correct format.
And does Community Development Department have any concerns after tonight with the way the 12 points are written?
Not the way the 12 points are written. The zoning checks out for all of them, and the ones that are being debated are mostly engineering SSLD requirements. But from a zoning point of view, from a
And then
planning
not to
point of
take
view.
over the meeting for the mayor, but Commissioner
you're still asking
Gentis,
questions.
do you have any concerns with moving forward with the 12 points?
Not as presented. My question, I was going to raise I have a comment, and then I was going to ask a question of staff, and then Mr. Morello. The comment is that as to private documents, private agreements that are of record, we don't get involved in interpreting them or enforcing them. Those are private agreements that bind the property owner and others who may benefit from those agreements. And so it's incumbent upon the property owner and the neighbors who will benefit from those rights and obligations, or as the case might be, to abide by them. The only thing that's in front of us today is a proposal for a 2-lot land division, subject to staff's recommendations. And I don't see anything in those recommendations that are problematic. I think they're consistent with the law. I think they're consistent with the prior history of the property. The question for you, Mr. Morello, is if we as a plan commission approve the recommended land division with those conditions, then you'll be living by that land division as and subject to the action of the plan commission. If you would prefer to come up with a different design or a different layout, you're entitled to do that, but I would suggest that you ask us to table it before we go forward. Otherwise, our recommendation will go to the council, and that'll be the end of it. Depending upon what the council decides.
This will not go to common council because there's no dedication of land, so it stays at planning commission. But he would have the ability to come back and ask for a 3-lot land division if you wanted to in the future, if he was not satisfied with the conditions of the only thing I would ask you to consider maybe is if there is a concern about impact to the neighbors or the owner with regard to when this occurs. Now, typically, we would require the private driveway improvements be done prior to recording that CSM. So if this thing sits for 5 years, you could have this road be widening and then sit there and not having a development. The other option would be you could do it prior to the first building permit being pulled for any of the new lots that are created, so whether it's this one or two. So just something to think about.
And that's what
So-
I thought it was too, that at the time they pull the building permits and the roads get widened.
Well, that's not how it's written. It's not usually how it's done.
Currently, how it's
Yeah.
done.
Well, if someone wanted to add a clause that the road wouldn't be widened until the first house was constructed.
Yeah, you would basically put a deed restriction on the plat, identifying that, so in 5-10 years, if nobody is aware of it, it'll be on the actual plat, so the surveyor will know about it when he does this plat of survey for the home, that it has to be done at that point. Again, that's just an option. It'll alleviate constructing a road if it never gets built on.
Well, I think straw poll, is there anyone here, and I know some of us weren't here last month, but is there anyone, or 2 months ago, is there anyone here who's leaning towards just outright waiving the driveway width, regardless of when it happens in time? Is there anyone who's leaning towards that? I'm not seeing anyone. So if, by show of hands, I don't see any hands. So with that in mind, you could infer that no one is willing to waive condition 12, so that if you were to divide the land, there'd be some sort of request to widen the roadway, either immediately or some point in time. So if that changes the CSM you want to ask for, then you would want to ask us to table it and come back with that CSM rather than have us approve this one and then approve another one 2 months from now.
Okay, so understanding what's being said here. If I say I accept it as is, I widen the driveway and I can do and develop those lots.
I think that's what the CSM would allow you to do. I think that's what the CSM says. Yes, they'd be separate lots.
Yes. So
But you had said earlier that you would come back with a 2-lot CSM or a 3-lot CSM.
well, that is an option if you were in my shoes and you gotta spend all the money to develop that wider roadway. Having an extra lot would offset some of that cost. So I have to take that into consideration. I mean, you're, by forcing me to widen the road, by denying a waiver, you're basically saying, I'm gonna take away all the value of that second lot. So I'll have to get some advice on this. Can I just say yes or no to you and them and give me some time to really think it
That
through?
would be tabling.
That would be tabling.
Yeah.
Then we would table it and you could bring it back in its existing form in 2 months.
If-
We don't have a meeting next month.
If I bring it back and say yes, then everything in.
But you can do whatever you want in another month,
No,
yeah.
what staff has recommended, that would be approved.
Oh, we haven't voted on it, but I'm getting the sense that that's the only hang-up. So yeah, it'd be a fresh slate in another 2 months.
Okay,
Possibly with the addition of waiting to widen the road. That's been proposed, that's being floated, that you could wait to widen the
That
road
I would
until the lot is developed.
I would
That's a
tend to think that
possibility.
might be in this scenario a reasonable amendment.
excuse me, ma'am. You saying wait to widen the road until I wanted to develop the lots?
There's a possibility that you could, we would approve everything as written and also say that you could wait to widen the road until the first lot is developed. That would be like adding on to what's written here.
That is a
Do I
potential.
have to get that through staff, or do I come back?
That is a potential amendment.
That would be, this commission could say that.
It is not the way
That's something I could live with.
it is not the way the ordinance is written up, but it is one that some commissioners might be willing to support.
I just think it's, regardless of what you end up doing, after listening to the neighbors, they don't want it widened until it's time. So why disrupt the environment? And it
But
makes
isn't
all
that
the
true?
sense in the,
I can develop lot 2, lot 5 up there today without touching the road.
Yes, that the existing vacant lot, that one is grandfathered because it's the way it was. It
Okay,
has it. That predated the ordinance change. Yeah.
and then, would I'm not quite clear. Do I ask you for the amendment? Do I go to staff?
I think we should. Well, we're not in a negotiation though. That's
No, I didn't say you are. I said,
yeah. I know we're kind of
How do I get
we're kind of
to
making it up on the
Going
fly.
off script here. This is
Yeah.
not typical.
This
I
is,
would say, I think
highly
what I'm
irregular.
hearing is that you would like to table it for right now. That is my understanding, that you would like to table it so that you can, knowing that the next meeting is 2 months away, so not until September. And then what Mr. Zader had said, and then Mrs. Urbani repeated, was that it's possible that we could then, as a commission, I don't think it has to be a condition that staff would add. It would be something that the commission would consider, that there could be an additional deed restriction on those,
It would
on
be
the plat,
It would be just lot 2, basically.
that if there was development, until there was development on that lot, you would not be, whomever the owner was at that time, would not be required to widen the road. So it would be tied to the development on lot 2, and we are able to make that as an amendment.
Thank you. I did ask staff, could I get a deed restriction so I wouldn't have to widen the road till that lot was developed? And they said that wasn't possible.
Staff
Then
does
did I
not
say it
have
wrong?
that authority to grant that because that's not the way the ordinance is written.
I get it. I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. Somehow or other.
Did I
have to
say
go
that
in
right?
front of the board and
Yeah, you could
hopefully
do that
they
as
give
part of
me
the
an
commission's purview, and you could do it even tonight. You could make a condition tonight, and add the condition to the 12 or 13 that are on there, and just add that condition that lot 2 would be deed restricted from development until the road is widened in accordance with section whatever of the code. If that's, so I don't know if you necessarily need to table it unless he's not sure about that's what he wants to do.
So, Mr. Morello, if we were to propose that, if we were to say we approve the proposal that's in front of us per the conditions of staff with that additional amendment relating to the road does not need to be addressed until someone, the owner of Lot 2 at that time, chooses to develop on it. Is that something that would, does that address, I think it does not change the discussion that you and your neighbors may have to have, but does that address,
That would be fine with me. I'm just not clear on how I do that. Do I
we do it. I'm
Well-
going to make a motion.
make a proposal to you, or are you guys gonna?
I think
I'm doing it
Commissioner's going
now.
to make a proposal for an amendment here.
Yes.
You will do it and then let me know which way it goes?
Oh no, you'll find out
You're gonna
shortly if she
find out
makes
in
an
a
amendment.
minute. So I'm going to make a motion right now, Mr. Morello, to approve this proposal as written, as with staff's conditions, with the additional amendment, and Jack will help me if I say this wrong, that for the 329C, for the widening of the roadway, for that to be enacted, it will be tied to any development on Lot 2. So until the development on Lot 2 occurs, that does not have to be enacted.
I would say there should be a deed restriction shown on the face of the plat restricting the development of lot 2 until the road is widened in accordance with city standards.
That is exactly what I said. Robin is right.
Okay,
I can agree with what, with.
Second.
so the
Lot 2 can't be developed till the roadways.
motion to approve with the amendment that the widening of the road won't kick in until there's A, development, and B, there's we have to accompanying that as a deed restriction on the lot 2 so that it doesn't slip through the cracks, because that'll happen if we don't do that. Okay. A motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Well, he's got some stuff to work out with the neighbors because they have a shared road, so that's none of our business though. Okay. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, how about a roll call vote?
Commissioner Gentis.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner Urbani.
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes.
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye.
Vote passes.
Okay. Let us know how it goes. Yeah. Next we have, are the people here for the next item here yet? Okay, we'll take them in order then. Paul Riley Company, the applicant is seeking a minor request to allow for I-43 signage for the property located at 1100 West Glen Oaks Lane. Quick staff overview, please. Evan. Is that Evan?
Yeah.
You got this one? Okay.
Let's see if I can find the. I guess I can give a brief. So this came in for sign permit review in June. There was the applicant initially applied for a larger sign. We had them kind of shave it down to a smaller version for some of the regulations that govern signs facing I-43. Is this it? No. That's 74. So the area of the sign can only be equivalent to 65% of the linear width of the wall that it is on. The smaller version that was approved on June 24th is compliant with that. The larger version shown up here is equivalent to 155% of the building width for the area of the sign. And staff went out for kind of a site compliance, kind of a site visit review, and had seen that there was actually a semi-truck parked in these bays right to the right of the sign, which obstructed it. And then looking out onto I-43, there is some really high grass plantings, and that's where a lot of equipment is parked. So it's kind of touch and go if they'll even passersby on I-43 are even going to be able to kind of see this sign on a regular basis. And based on all that evidence, staff recommends denial of the sign waiver.
All right, thanks for the overview. The applicants are here to obviously probably disagree a little bit, which is okay. Please state your name and give us your side of the story. Oh, sorry, you have to push to talk. As long as the green light's on, you're good.
Okay. My name is Jamie Deeman. I'm with Innovative Signs, and we are representing Paul Riley Company for their signage. We feel the architecture of the building puts Paul Riley Company at a disadvantage for signage allowed if only the 33-foot section of east-facing frontage that the wall sign is located on is used in calculations. We are asking the Plan Commission to consider using the total building frontage that faces east towards I-43. The full east-facing frontage is 78 feet. I do have a mock-up of the smaller sign here so that you can see it. The small 20 square foot sign is far below the optimal viewing distance for a sign that size, which would be 170 feet. The elevation that faces I-43 is the only elevation that faces a main roadway. We would also like to point out that this property has a much longer frontage of 195 feet facing north and south. The longer frontage is unused just due to it being on a dead end and facing an office park. The owner was already denied a pylon sign, so we're trying to find an alternative for them to get increased visibility. And we feel allowing that full frontage that faces I-43 would give them that.
Thank you. Could you repeat a couple numbers for me? So the existing wall section is 33 feet,
Yeah, so
and the
that-
total building length is 78 feet.
Yeah, so that small section is what we were told we needed to use for calculations. We ask that you allow us to use the full frontage. So that section is 33 feet, but if you use the full I-43 facing frontage, it is 78 feet. And I do have, can I hand these out? Is that allowed?
Okay, I've got a,
Thank you.
I'll add on here. The sign looks appropriate for the building. It's kind of a tough one. Our regulations also, I don't normally say this, but these regulations make my head hurt a little bit. We're basing an area in square feet off a linear dimension in length. So if the building's 100 feet long and 10 feet tall, 65 square foot sign. If it's 100 feet long and 20 feet tall, 65 square foot sign. It's gonna tend to look ridiculous in some of those extreme cases. You know, if it's a 100 foot tall long building and 20 feet tall, a 65 square foot sign is going to look comically small. I would be in favor. We're not going to rewrite the zoning code on the fly, but I would be in favor of revisiting this, because I think now that the DOT's gone through and absolutely obliterated all form of vegetation along I-43, much to the detriment of the sound of the freeway on the east side of Mequon, which I can now hear in my backyard every night instead of only in the winter. We're just going to continue to get more and more of these, and this one was tough. I did some quick numbers. If the numbers in the staff report are accurate, if they were able to use the whole length of that building, then the sign almost exactly meets our code. It's just the fact that it undulates, that we are having to use a really small section. I mean, good, it's up. If we make them build the sign to the size the code would allow, the whole sign would be about the size of the portion that says company in length. It's about 42% of what's there today. I find myself wanting to grant a waiver on this one just because I think our code's written a little wacky. Basing a square area off of a linear dimension is kind of an odd one. And I think that, we ask for this all the time. We ask people staff calls it fenestration. We want undulation in the building, and we want it to be aesthetically pleasing and have features that break up these long linear masses, and then to be punitive on the back end and not allow a sign just kind of seems like we're asking for everything and willing to give on nothing, which feels odd after the last discussion we just had on driveways, but I feel like that nonetheless. Commissioner Chorn.
I don't disagree with you, but not being familiar with the building and the comment about, when a semi's parked there, it's blocking the sign anyways. Why wouldn't you put it on the face of the building that is furthest to the east? Are there windows there, or what prevents you from doing that?
Can you hear me okay? That portion of the building has a dumpster corral in the front of it, and there is some taller trees on the property that the owner does not want to cut down.
Or you could get a semi with your logo on it and park it there like Suburban Harley does just up the street here in Thiensville.
Thought of that.
And then we can't even regulate that.
You actually can see the sign because it's a decline dock position when the semis do back in there. And that's the only time that they would be in there.
Okay, anyone else have any comments or questions on this?
Could I add one more thing?
Sure.
The company's been around for 47 years. He has every intention on keeping this beautiful. He's just that kind of guy. So I'm hoping that you look at it and understand he just wants his name out there, and he's going to do whatever he can to keep the property in good shape.
Certainly appreciate that. Although we tend to write the municipal code to plan for the opposite of that, but Commissioner Jordan.
So staff, if the entire east length, including the two sections, if you took that into the calculation, would this sign meet the code?
I think they said that, 77 feet? 78 feet. So that would be, I could do some quick math.
Would be a tad over. Tad. Yeah.
It's 20.
it's within 1% or so. Yeah.
0.33.
It's like 40, that ratio of the lengths is 42%, and the ratio that they're off by the percentages is 41%. So it's
So
very,
you-
very, very close.
0.1 over, 0.1% over.
Yeah. Commissioner Schaefer.
Schaefer. I am trying to remember. I'm thinking about precedent, and I'm thinking of other requests that have come forward from businesses that are along Port with east facing, that are close to 43, so they have asked for a sign. The one that I'm remembering is the church. Didn't Christ Church come and ask for a larger than allowed sign? I don't think we allow. I remember having a whole discussion. This was Dan Abendroth. I think this was multiple mayors ago, so it's been a minute. But talking about just the value of signage that faces 43 in general, and how it's not really wayfinding, right? It's kind of marketing more than it is wayfinding. And I'm not organized in my thoughts right now. I'm definitely thinking out loud. But I guess the crux of my concern is precedent. And to Mayor Nurbin's point, will we now continue to see more of these if the landscape along 43 is changed, and are we comfortable that this is a path we want to go down? And I'm not sure I have a strong opinion yet. Either way, I'm posing it as a question for the commission.
Well, I kind of look at it this way: if you find this sign aesthetically pleasing and appropriate for the building, and there's willingness to re-explore this section of the code and maybe make some slight modifications for things like taking into account the whole length of the building, not just the section. I mean, if you make them stick to the section, that sign's unreadable. I just brought up Google Maps and put the little guy out on the side of I-43. You'll never be able to read it. So that would be a basis of an exception that doesn't leave it wide open by the way you made the motion and framed it. So, Commissioner Parrish.
Yeah, I think signage is about proportionality, so I agree with the mayor's assessment that basing it on linear measurements might not be the best way to do it, and would encourage kind of a policy review of that. As it relates to the signage waiver, which I'm also inclined to grant, it doesn't create any sort of slippery slope, which I know that's what you're concerned about. If you treat the whole eastern perimeter, that's all we're doing is treating it as one eastern perimeter. So yeah, it's one facade that happens to have an ingress area for a dock. So I really don't think there's any precedent being broken here. It'd be good to go strictly to the code, not go that 0.1% over, but who cares? So I would support any motion to waive, but would listen to any other concerns.
And maybe it's as simple as just adding that clarification to the code that it is the whole eastern exposure. I would, yeah. Commissioner Barnes.
I concur with what's being said here and going ahead and allowing this. I guess part of my question really is long-term history. I'm recalling there were some businesses along the freeway, and I'll just say one a long time ago was McDonald's, and for signage, and that went through quite a big issue. And I guess just so we're not contradicting ourselves is what I'm wondering, and would that open it up to other places?
Well, years ago, we prohibited 43 signage completely. So that happened years ago. And so we made a change. But I would be a little bit concerned. I question whether this is precedent setting, not just for the 43 signs, but we also have the same criteria for single tenant building signs on walls off the freeway. And we've had this discussion and argument numerous times where somebody says, well, could we use the whole face? And I think it's a slippery slope because articulation is important, but this is, to me, is a whole different section of a building. It juts over, I don't know what that is, probably at least 20, 30 feet. So it's not just a 5-foot jump, it's a whole different section. So, I mean, we can evaluate that, but I'd be concerned that we might open up something that's
It's a single tenant, correct?
correct.
Okay. That should keep it pretty easy. I mean, we have a multi-tenant bay building. They only have to go, they would have to go off the length of the building that's for their tenant bay space. I think that would be pretty, we're writing it on the fly here, but I don't want to do that necessarily, but it would be the basis for re-looking at it in the future, which we will never get the code right in a meeting like this, so. But it's a good point, fair point, but I think there's ways we can write it to protect against that from happening. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Or a motion? I don't think we've got to a motion yet. Commissioner Chorin.
Move to accept the waiver and sign as presented.
On the grounds that it very closely matches the code for the total eastern facade? Okay, that's what I thought you meant.
Right.
Second.
Okay. Just want to make sure that's in the record and appears in the minutes, in case someone goes digging someday. There was a motion and a second? Okay. Any further conversation? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Abani,
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin,
Aye.
Commissioner Gentis,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer. Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye.
Vote passes.
Thank you. Next item is Sergio Rodriguez for Guzman Properties LLC. The applicant is seeking a building and site plan amendment approval to allow for improvements to the existing restaurant for the property located at 10352 Northport Washington Road, the former Centennial site. If there's anyone here representing the applicant, please come up. Staff will kick this off with a brief overview.
Sure. So, yeah, like you said, this is the old Centennial Supplement site on Port and Donges. They're applying for building and site plan approval due to some ongoing code enforcement items with site maintenance, building maintenance, just the exterior of the building, how that's looking. List of material changes. There's some new exterior building material. There's maroon brown stucco siding for the majority of the building. There's an image up on the board as well. There's wood edge trim colored a kind of terracotta orange. Wood accent trim around windows and roof lines colored a bright red. The existing roofing material looks to be colored almost like a dark green, or it can't really tell from the plans that the applicant sent in. It looks to be black on one image and a darker green on another. Removal and replacement of certain windows and doors. You can see kind of on the north elevation, some of those windows on the first floor are being widened and then removed on the, I think I should go down. On the west elevation, there's some being added there, and then south elevation, some there. The door on the west elevation, which is where the porch element that's also been removed, that's been replaced with a window as well. And that's it for the exterior building materials. There was no landscape plan submitted by the applicant. There's a fair amount of overgrowth and other things both around the building and in the parking lot that should be addressed as part of code enforcement. Site plan wise, nothing else has been changed to include parking spots. Staff went out and did a site compliance review, kind of a site assessment review, and noticed that the parking lot should need to be repaved and resealed and restriped before approval of either the building and site plan approval or the CUG. That should come up in September. The dumpster enclosure on the site looks like it has some pretty significant damage on the right-hand side. And then just general site maintenance. There's some refuse and some old tires that are sitting out. And also, again, that the amount of landscaping and overgrowth that's there. So with all those things considered, staff really thinks that meeting with the applicant and tabling this until September would be good to kind of find an architecture that really matches and is compatible without what's out on Port right now. This is almost kind of branding a little bit towards the one specific tenant that would be in there, and kind of might prohibit the an additional tenant or a tenant in the future, and can kind of restrict the look of the building to the Mexican restaurant that would be operating there. So again, meeting with the applicant, with staff, and perhaps maybe even Commissioner Chorin to nail down what acceptable and attractive and compatible architecture would be for this site would be good. So staff moves to table. Or
Thank
staff
you, Evan.
recommends tabling.
Any comments or questions from the commission, or would we like to rebut any of that?
Good evening. Brian Ruel, here on behalf of both Jose Guzman, who's in the back, and his partner, Sergio Rodriguez. So basically the reason I'm here is because obviously I have a long history with that specific location, as I acquired the building back in 1988 and subsequently transitioned to the Sobelman family back in 2015. So with that being said, I've been asked to attend, not that Jose doesn't understand English, his linguistic skills, though, with regards to response, thought maybe it'd be more efficient if I attended the meeting on their behalf. So it is going to be a Mexican restaurant. Their plan is to completely renovate both interior and exterior. I certainly understand staff's concerns with what they're thinking about doing with exterior, and I know that the boys are certainly open to continuing that, because I know although they like the theme of what they're trying to portray for that specific corner, I am certainly fully aware of the dynamics of how Mequon likes to have things look, especially against a major corridor like Port Washington Road. Briefly, the restaurant group currently has 8 restaurants here in the state of Wisconsin, throughout the state. New Richmond, Hudson, they're in Sheboygan, Plymouth, Omro. They've got one under construction in Wapaka. This group is extremely successful, and they are certainly always welcomed in all the communities that they've currently have been operating in, and certainly look forward to a long tenured relationship here in Mequon. So their traditional menu concept is in fact Mexican, maybe a little bit notched up, not your typical Taco Bell. I've been to some of their places before I knew they were actually buying my place. Hours of operation to be determined, but they were planning on opening for lunch at 11 o'clock through and including 9 o'clock at night, and that would be 7 days a week. They plan on having between 13 and 15 employees at the location here in Mequon. And with that, when I met with Sergio, one of the principals, on Saturday, they were talking about the living quarters may in fact be available to one of their managers and or a key employee. So there would always be staff on premise. With that being said, I know that they were planning on removing on the corner of Donjas Bay and Port, the actual porch that is currently there, and the building would be flush then all the way across from the northeast point all the way to the southwest point, northwest corner to the southwest corner. I know they had some instruction with regards to architects who I've met with previously, just because of the infrastructure dynamics that go with a building that's been 100 and some years old. But again, I'm here just to take on questions from staff, committee, and certainly I know that both Jose and Sergio are looking forward to developing a really nice concept here for the community.
Thank you, Brian. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Chorin.
Well, first of all, I want to thank them for considering Mequon and taking what in the past has been very successful, for the most part, a restaurant corner. It's a very historical building. I drove around it a couple times this weekend, and it's sad. You know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I share a lot of the same concerns that the staff has expressed about the color, the fact of pulling off the porch kind of, in my opinion, leaves that corner like somebody smiling with a big gap in their teeth. You know, it just, there's so much that needs to be studied and thought about with regards to removing of those things, adding the windows, the color schemes. And, you know, I made an effort to drive around to other Mexican restaurants. I mean, I think what would be helpful, and I support staff's recommendation to table so we can have some dialogue. It would be very helpful to see what they've done at other locations. You know, have they been existing facilities that they renovated? How have they done it? What are the color schemes? I think what's shown on up here is too much. I'm not sure at this moment what to tell you to what I'm recommending, but I think we have to think about it. We have to sit down and talk about it, and that's what would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes. Go in
Yes,
order.
I would look forward to development of this site, certainly, and encourage you on the way. And I think I would have to agree. There's certainly some further exploration of colors and exterior treatment appearance that needs to be pursued here. In reading the report, there were a couple questions that came to my mind on top of those comments, but first of all is the from the traffic standpoint, the parking access point location along Donges Bay Road has always been very close to the intersection, and there's no curb along there or anything like that, and so I guess I don't need an immediate answer on this, but again, in looking at the site in general, in seeing traffic and having been there myself, twofold question is would a curb be possible that could control the access egress points into this parking area?
I'm going to interject.
And
I'm going to interject when you're done, so just don't jump in.
And as part of that, with the parking stall count for the entire parking area, possibly it could be improved. I don't know. I'm not spending time trying to do it, but with a bit more work in terms of reorienting as part of the access points being adjusted.
That's an excellent point. I will add that this site is in one of our TIFs, TIF 5, and we are in the early stages of planning improvements along that stretch. We originally desired to do them this summer, but with I-43 project, we decided to defer it a year. And if we end up tabling and there's some further discussion and there's things that can be done to improve access that require some of the modification of the road, I think there's a possibility some of that cost can get picked up by the TIF. We're considering doing it right across the street with the Medi Spa and putting a right turn lane so that traffic can get around, because most people are turning right, and you get one guy who pulled over a little too far to the right, but he's going straight, and it blocks traffic all the way up the hill sometimes.
I guess very simply, my concern relates to the proximity to a signalized intersection where we've got a fair amount of traffic. Yep. And understandably, during your peak hours, there's.
But my point is, I think there's monies the city could bring to bear to help make that possible, and we could have a discussion about, where that goes and what exactly that can cover. I can't speak to detail, but there is a pot of money there that we are going to spend anyway to improve the whole corridor and this corner. So that's a good comment. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah, I don't know who was responsible, if it was the county or the state, but there is curb and gutter that was established there back when they were doing the overpass to Donjas Bay over the expressway. So they did in fact move my entrance, the entrance to the east approximately 10 feet. And that opening, Commissioner, is now approximately 14 to 16 feet open, instead of it being open literally from the corner of the building to the median that's separated to 2 parking spots. So, again, I'm not sure who installed that. I wasn't obviously a part of that. But there is curb and gutter along Donjas Bay Road now, and that entrance into that lower parking lot to the west has in fact been reduced. And access to the upper parking lot, once again, is primarily the same.
Yeah, our friends at WISDOT and FHA took over on that one.
Okay. And with that, I don't know if you've passed by recently the satellite garage that we had between the 2 parking stalls, which would be just to the west of the dumpster enclosure. The owners have already taken that down, and that is going to be used as additional parking, and based on the square footage that was there, it comes out to about 2.5 parking spots, give or take. But I know the owners, we talked about this. I've got landscapers that I'm referring to ownership. A lot of them here are local that we're all aware of. They are planning on using a lot of our contractors here locally, both electricians and plumbers. And I know they're planning on doing a complete overhaul of the exterior. And I'm not talking just the building, of which, you know, is another talking point, seeing we're going to be tabling this. But there's no question that the landscaping and the artistic touches that normally go a long ways are going to be done.
The upshot of what I'm trying to emphasize is part of everything you're talking about here, a re-examination of the parking configuration with respect to Donjas Bay Road and its proximity to the intersection be looked at freshly in the interest of controlling the access away from the signalized intersection.
Yes, sir. And I know I revisited that once years ago when it was the Quiet House Motel, and there's that sliver of land to the east of my upper parking lot that separates the expressway and such. My understanding is, based on what we heard, is that's part of their green space requirement, even though it's not visible by anyone because of the overpass and such. As I tried to acquire that sliver, but it never came to fruition because it didn't make sense based on what we were being told at the time.
And I would simply suggest re-examination, even exploring with the DOT in the interest of, you know, maximizing your stall count.
Yes, sir.
Within that area and the access to it.
And if there's something that needs to be reconfigured, I think the TIF can help out with that in that road right-of-way reservation along the stretch there. So at least there's a pot of money. Commissioner Urbani.
So I will echo what Commissioner Torin said. Thank you so much for considering Mequon. I'm very excited to see somebody do something with this building. And I pass by here 10 times a day. It's really sad to see it falling apart. I could walk here. So, 7 days a week, that sounds great to me. I'm a little different than some, maybe. I don't mind the colors. I feel like color is very easily changed. Should a new owner come in at some point in the future, that, color's color. Everybody's going to paint. Maybe the roof, if the roof is green, that's a little different. But I don't mind color. The window sizes are also fine to me. There is already that large square window on the north side, I think, that doesn't match anything else. So if you put in a whole bunch more windows that are the same size, that makes sense to me. But also what staff said about putting panes in them to break them up a little, that seems very easy to do and would match a little bit better, but would have to go into some plans for everybody to see it. I do agree the west side needs something to break it up. Removing the porch and the balcony all at once might be too much, but maybe awnings, or at least leaving the porch with the door there. something like that would break up that face a little bit, the west elevation as shown. And if staff says stucco doesn't last, you should listen to them. They know what works here, what doesn't work. Anyway, I'm really excited. Hope it works out.
I'll echo your comment on stucco. My neighbor, who's a pediatric urologist, had to unretire to pay the $130,000 to have his failing stucco replaced with cement board that looks like stucco. It does not hold up well in Wisconsin. Commissioner Parrish.
Thank you, Mayor. Those are good comments, Commissioner Urbani. I tend to agree, especially about the color. I didn't care for the color. I would prefer kind of the overall architecture be a little more timeless, so I don't want to repeat everything that's been said. I just wanted to let the applicant know that I do hear a lot from my residents, what's going on at that corner. So it's definitely a high topic of interest for the whole community. And I assure you that, you spared no expense in making this a top-notch venue. The community is really going to rally and support you and come to this venue and make sure it's successful long-term. So definitely listen to the feedback you've heard. I am concerned. I wish we were meeting in August so we could keep this moving along, just because of how often I do hear about this. I'm sure the mayor does too, and staff. I just I don't want this delayed to delay any of the enforcement either. Unfortunately, the building has kind of fallen astray, and I see why now, because you were going to replace the windows and the siding, so why do all that? But I do want the enforcement to continue to the extent reasonable. I get that in some places it may not make sense. So I just wanted to encourage the applicant to keep going here and open up as soon as possible, and the community is really going to rally behind you. Thank you.
I'll echo that. I do hear frequently from people that live on the east side who drive past it. They're like, when is it going to open? They're excited for another restaurant, but then they're also like, well, wasn't it going to get cleaned up? Some of them quite forcefully, but and that's okay. It's part of the job. But we'll talk about something happier. I'll probably be once it's done, I'll probably be your best customer, because I can finally drink a couple margaritas and walk home. It's only a mile down Donges Bay, and the shoulders are nice and wide. So, and if I had to pick any particular genre of food where I'd desire to have a restaurant close to me, I'd pick Mexican. Literally, I would, if I could eat no other style of food the rest of my life, I'd pick it. So I'm particularly excited. I wish it was open already. So I hope I'm getting the sense we'll have a motion to table soon here, but I'm hoping we can come together on, architecture things and maybe some of the traffic safety things and get something going and have a good proposal in front of us for September.
I'm ready to make a motion as long as you feel that as long as you and the applicants feel that you've had enough feedback to be going on with.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I have. And again, I'm not involved in any way, shape, or form other than emotionally.
Yes,
the building, the corner means a lot to me, and my family as well. And so I told them, again, part of it with the broken English, I said, if you want, I'll come up there and we'll talk things out a little bit with everybody and see what direction we need to go in order to accelerate the process, so to speak. So I understand we don't have a meeting until September. I'll talk to the guys and see if we can set up something with staff.
Yeah.
I think they're very, very receptive to what may need to be done in order for this to go forward. And so because we're all on the same page, you want it, they want it, there's no reason to believe that we can't bridge the gap.
That sounds great. I would make a motion to table this item, hopefully until September.
Second.
Motion in 2 seconds. Well, motion to table is non-debatable, so now we have to vote on it. All those in favor of tabling, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item's tabled until our next month in September. We'll see you back here in just about 2 months.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Next item is Dan Beyer, Architects for Commerce Street Holdings Incorporated. The applicant is seeking a building and site plan amendment approval to allow for improvements to the existing restaurant and recreational building for the property located at 5616 West Donges Bay Road, known as Libby, Montana's today. Take it away. Jack got this one?
Yes, I do.
All right.
We'll stay on the same theme of restaurants in Mequon. So this is a request to modify the existing restaurant as well as change the existing sand volleyball course to a mini hockey rink. So I have the site plan up on the screen in front of you just to kind of show you where things are going on. So the hockey rink will require a small addition off the back end, which is shown on the north end of the property. That'll take up some parking stalls. That's for some of the mechanical equipment related to the use of the ice facility. There's also shows to be a couple of equipment pads in this area here on the western portion of it. We did ask them to look at the parking lot and add some landscape islands. We don't meet, the current site does not meet the 10% interior lot landscaping or the green space requirement, so they did add a couple islands throughout the site. It's still not in compliance with the code, but we were a little concerned about adding too many and losing too many parking stalls with that use there, so we think we struck a balance there between the parking demand and adding some greenery to the site. There's another addition shown in the front here. That's the vestibule. They're switching the entranceway. If many of you have been to the building will know that the entranceway is on the south end of the building. It's kind of a little bit awkward. You walk into basically to the bathrooms. They're going to shift that to a little bit to the center of the building in this location shown here. And then they're also showing a connection between the two buildings. Currently, there is a gap between the restaurant and the sand volleyball court. Now, I did have conversations with the applicant. Our code for the neighborhood commercial does not allow buildings over 20,000 square feet unless it's approved through a PUD. I did ask them how they want to proceed with this, and they felt that they wanted to go forward with all the rest of the proposed improvements and come back at a later date for that PUD requirement for the connection between the two. They still want to do the connection. They want to get some feedback from the commission to see whether that connection is viable or you think it's a good idea. I think from staff's perspective, we're supportive of it, but we still have to follow the code when it comes to the technical details. So that will not be part of this approval. As I stated, the parking lot has been modified. We lost a couple stalls here and over here, so we're going from 139 to 116. Based on the use of the facility, there's 120 stall requirements, so there's a little bit short. They did agree to not have the adult hockey leagues on Friday and Saturday night. I think that'll help with some of the busy times for the restaurant, not having those adult leagues there. And you'll see some overlap, I assume, from the parents going to the restaurant while their kids are practicing hockey as well. So I think we're pretty comfortable with the parking tally that's out there now in relation to what they're proposing. They also have added some, they've modified the outdoor seating area in a nice way. They're adding a little outdoor bar area to this section here. There's also a section, and I can get to it, the pictures later on, that's kind of down towards the road in this area here. This is actually on We Energies' property, and it'd be a nice facility for some seating or some bike trail amenities, things like that. And if We Energies is amenable to it, I think that'd be a good location there to do some of that stuff. So we're supportive of them working with We Energies to try to do something in that location over here. Next, I'll go to the elevation drawing. So basically the major changes to the building, they're on the ice rink facility itself. They're going to close off the windows that were in the sand volleyball courts and match the existing metal panel. The addition on the back end will be the same metal panel or matching the metal panel that's existing as well. They're painting the building to a lighter color, to a white. The only suggestion staff has, we put in the recommendations, that there's basically I counted 3 different types of roofing material on that building. They're proposing to leave some of the asphalt shingles. We're recommending that we replace all of it. There's some dimensional shingles. There's 3-tab shingles, and there's an old shingle on the main building. I'm not even sure what that is. So we're recommending that we have all the shingles replaced with a dimensional type shingle. We also added some conditions for the landscaping. There's some landscaping in the front of the building. We feel that could be spruced up a little bit, so we're asking for some additional landscaping there and make sure all those mechanicals that are added are screened properly, and then we get some new trees in the parking lot islands that are existing as well as the new one itself. So with that, staff does recommend approval with all the other conditions in the report, and I can answer any questions or show you any pictures if you need to see them. Thank you.
Thank you. Good, quick overview. Any comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, a couple of questions. If you can just clarify for me with the, is the existing main entrance being abandoned then? It was hard to see from the drawings and so forth.
Yeah,
The reason I'm just asking that in the context of with your later completion of what's presented with the main entrance is I'm sure the steps comply, but it's always when going there for what are great evenings, they are kind of steep, and I know you got handles there, etc. But I do see people struggling with that. So if it's being eliminated,
I do have the
Great.
rendering is probably the best view of the entranceway. So this is the location of the new entranceway, and one of the benefits of it, I believe, is that you could actually come up the ramp here and get through this entranceway through that ramp area, so you can avoid the steps. The old entranceway was basically in this location here, so that's been shifted over. So, what's that? Yes, correct.
It
Oh.
still, sorry, it still shows a door there to the outside, I guess, to go directly into the front bar.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
I think the applicant is dying to get a word in here and clarify. So go ahead.
First of all, my name's Dan Byer, and I'm working with Corey Kreiser here, who's one of the partners of the development. Tanlo is also one of the partners of the development. He could not be here tonight, oddly enough. He's in Slovenia with his kid playing at a hockey tournament. Actually, one of the other things we're after tonight's meeting, I might have to tell him to try to convince him to do a Mexican restaurant here instead of a bar, more bar fare, which is what it is. Ultimately, the existing entrance is, we have to keep that door. It's a means of egress, but it is going to be downplayed as more of just a means of egress and not the main entrance.
it's, I'm just considering with, which leads to my second question point, is what is a great fun restaurant to go to and so forth, and going on weekday evenings for group parties or what have you. 9 out of 10 times when I've gone, the parking lot is full as it is, evidence of real success that you have. So I guess when I read that there is some reduction in parking and change in use, that makes me wonder with the group parties that I find myself getting to sometime during the week, when you would be having the other activity in the sports. Is there a way we can add any more parking stalls, I guess is.
Yeah, we've certainly looked at that a lot and worked with staff and trying to figure out the best way to do that. Obviously, the site is the site, and we are the current parking lot is essentially within all the buffer setbacks on that. And as Jack mentioned, we are also have a deficit of landscaping in that existing parking lot. So we're kind of fighting two different things: adding more landscaping, adding more parking.
Usually I speak to the landscaping, but I will say here for the success that you have and with the future,
I think one of the
I would emphasize parking stalls within the area that you're showing. Okay. Maximizing.
So I do think, and I don't know if you're suggesting perhaps removing some of the landscaping and that we are adding and keeping some of the stalls there. We'd be 100% open to that. I think part of the whole project is kind of the synergy between the hockey, what the activities of the hockey going on with the hockey rink, as well as the restaurant. And we think there's going to be a fair amount of overlap between the two uses. And not only that, when we think of the hockey rink use, it is going to be primarily for youth leagues and for or youth practices and kind of some every now and then some high school teams. There is, my understanding, is a rather dearth of ice sheets that youth teams can practice on, and therefore instead of driving 30 miles down to the Rock or someplace and having to do that at 6 a.m., this gives them an opportunity to have something on the north side of Milwaukee. So I think with that use of the ice rink, and the overlap that we think that'll happen with the restaurant, and the parents that will drop off their kids at the ice rink and then go and have grab a quick bite to eat. We think that parking sharing will happen and naturally occur. I think the owners are certainly more than willing to. There's even was discussion about talking to the people across the street, if excuse me, if there's a need to, at certain specific times, if they think there's an event, try to get some additional parking. That's a possibility, yes.
So I guess part of my concern would be the weekday evenings with the overlap of functions that you're going on for parking availability as it's presented.
That'll be a good problem for them to have if they can keep it full. I often go there and there's not many people there, but we must go at different times. We need to resolve a question of the connection. There was a request for a little bit of a feeler for the commission if they would support the connection between the two buildings on a separate PUD to come forth at a later date. I, for one, would think it'd be a great idea. It's a little wacky, especially in the winter, to have to try to traverse between the two. So I don't know, if show of hands, anyone, this isn't a binding vote, but you're willing to hear about that later and probably support it if it makes sense. Okay, I think it makes sense and it'll largely go unnoticed by most of the public because you won't be able to see it from the road. But and I sat there just Friday, right where that proposed crossover is. So, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And Commissioner Schaefer.
I'm sorry if I just missed it in the proposal, but it's smaller than a standard ice rink, and I was looking to try to find the measurements. So it's less than 200 by 85. Do you know what the actual measurements would be?
I thought it was 150 by 6. I shouldn't even.
I do think it's so. I don't need to recuse myself, but I do have a vested interest in this as someone who experiences the dearth of ice time in this community. I do think I'd be interested in the size because I think that is potentially going to impact the usage of it if it's too small. Even for youth practices maybe, but
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, and again, the rink is kind of is constrained by the existing building.
I totally
and I think
agree.
if you ask the owners, they would love to make it bigger.
I'm sure.
But that would be a lot of.
I'm not sure it works there, but I'm wondering what I don't know what this. I wasn't able to ascertain that from the plans, and maybe I might have just missed it. Like I know what the square footage of the building is, but I'm wondering the actual measurements of the rink.
You'd have to scale it out. There's a scale on the plans. We'd have to scale it out, but I mean, just based on the 3 volleyball courts that are in there, which are typically 60 by 30 times 3 plus a gap between them, so you're probably talking about 110, 15 feet this way, and then so you got another 60 that way. It's probably about 80 feet in width, maybe. And I'm not a hockey person, so I don't know what the regular hockey rink size is and how that compares.
200 by 85 is the standard.
Yeah, so you might meet the 85, but you're definitely not meeting the 200.
Yeah, a little short.
Yes.
No, it's 141
2/3
including
ish.
the bathrooms and 90 including the edge, the like boxes.
Yes.
The business model is
Page
little kids and
Yep.
old guys who don't want to skate the full length of the ice.
Oh, but the old guys still are pretty sure they can. I know them. I live with them. I think this is awesome. So I am excited about it. That was one thing that caught me as I was reading it, just knowing knowing that community. But I think it's great. I think it looks great. I am excited.
Wow, 2 in a row. Commissioner Urbani.
I agree. I am familiar with both Stillery properties, and I'm a big fan. I look forward to having you in Mequon. I do go out to eat a lot, apparently, because I've been to all the places, and I don't like to drive very far. So I like the changes in the building. I am with Commissioner Barnes about the landscaping in the parking lot. I know they're supposed to have landscaping and there's an open space requirement, but I think parking's important too. Although I do think I am there frequently, and you don't realize how many volleyball games are happening, and there is actually a lot of people parked further back and around the corner, and I'm not playing volleyball or hockey, so I park towards the front. So there is actually a lot of overlap already happening during the week that you don't even realize sometimes. But anyway, I think it's great.
Just don't ask for a Donjus Bay Bridge to make your drive to the restaurant shorter. Any other comments from the commission? All right. Or is there a motion? I lost track. I don't think there is.
Hold on. Move to approve per staff recommendations.
A motion and a second. Any last comments or questions? The applicant has one comment.
There is, we'd love to have a couple more stalls if the landscaping requirement can be eased up. So I'll just mention that.
I think that would be addressed in the landscaping plan. Is that right?
No, this is
No.
building and site plan,
It'd be
so it'd
here.
be addressed here. If the motioner would accept maybe sacrificing the center landscaping section, you'd pick up 2 additional stalls. But I'm not saying you should make that motion.
I would amend my motion to be flexible with the landscaping and parking lot requirements, such as including 2 more parking spots.
To eliminate the center.
So motion and a second to pick up 2 stalls somewhere at the expense of a to be determined landscaping bed. I like the ones on the end caps because it defines where you're supposed to turn, which is a bit ambiguous in that parking lot. I personally could live without the middle 2, but I guess that motion leaves it up to staff to work out with the applicant, so it could come back differently.
Well, yeah, just to clarify, these ones, and these are already here. These exist. The new ones are the ones here, 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 and here.
Oh, so that is present. Those are present.
Those are presently landscape beds right now.
It's the middle one that's a little.
Yeah.
Boy, are they there? They don't
Yeah,
stand
they
out.
used-
I was just there a couple days ago.
They used to have retaining walls around them. I know because I backed into one of them one time. So they did get rid of those finally, though. So
Okay.
but you could probably get rid of like at least the one here. If you're looking to get rid of one, that would be it. The other ones, you'd probably have to see if you could squeeze another stall here by extending the pavement a little bit. You might be able to do that one. That might be an area where you could put something.
Yeah, no one's going to see that one in the back corner. Okay, 2 spots and to be determined location with staff. That's perfectly fine. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that item's approved. Can't wait to see it, guys. Thank you. All right, now we just have one last policy item, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code related to WDNR MS4 stormwater permit conditions. And Cole's going to give us an overview about what our friends at the DNR have done to us lately. This one didn't look too bad, though.
Yeah, this is generally pretty minimal. Like the mayor said, it's mostly for conforming with our new MS4 permit, which was issued a couple of years ago. Couple more requirements than the last one, so trying to bring our ordinance up to speed with those requirements. So it's in Chapter 58, so it has to go through Planning Commission. In general, the changes are redlined in the packet, but in general, they can be categorized in the 3 different groups. There's just the pure MS4, you have to do this, update those. There's that category. There's a category that we're supposed to remove barriers to green infrastructure. And I know you guys hear me drone on about green infrastructure at these meetings. So actually in 2014, a firm went through and proposed changes to meet that requirement. So a lot of those extra definitions that were included in there, and also other stuff relating to green infrastructure and landscaping and that kind of stuff, is also included to meet that requirement. And then the last category were just things that we wanted to touch up and possibly improve. And I just wanted to bring up the one because we do hear, I do hear complaints and deal with things on the green infrastructure side when it comes to residential development. Whenever a property increases 5,000 square feet of impervious, which does happen with a lot of Mequon homes, they have to do what's called a green infrastructure plan, which is actually an MMSD requirement. What we are proposing is that basically staff is having trouble kind of enforcing that be done in a timely fashion, and it's hard for us to kind of enforce that with anything. So we are proposing that if they are subject to that, that needs to be required and completed within 18 months of the building permit issuance and prior to occupancy on the building. And then there's another section that just added a mechanism to hopefully bill through if MMSD did issue the city a violation for someone not adhering to that. The fee or the violation would then be billed to that property owner or the developer of some sort. So that's kind of the very quick overview. Just wanted to also make a note that city attorney needs to still go through this for form and format and technical language. So if it does pass here and reappear at council, might look a little different, but generally these are the changes. Happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. Just as a backdrop to back up some of what Cole said, we do have a couple properties that were subject to the green infrastructure improvements who have done all the other work and want to occupy their home, and there's not even a single thing done to step in the direction of fulfilling those requirements. So I think that's why staff's putting a little clarification in what timeline those things are supposed to be done, because there's people that are just trying to ignore that it has to be done and see if they can get away with it. Or maybe they just forgot, I'm not sure. It's in the staff conditions, so you think they wouldn't be able to forget, but so just a little added color there so you understand why staff's putting in that provision. Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, just a question to help me out a little bit. Very specifically, the permeable surfacing definition. I guess, can you help me out a little bit in understanding what that new definition? I mean, I have some experience, but I don't know that it's even the same thing.
I think generally it's supposed to, so the parking lot at Outpost has permeable asphalt. Our city parking lot over here has the permeable pavers. You guys have probably seen those. I think that's generally trying to indicate that type of surface. And just, I guess, a side note, a lot of these definitions were added from that sort of audit that I referred to. I'm not sure if all of these necessarily need to be in here because it doesn't seem like the ordinance refers to them much or at all after. So that's a question for our city attorney, but just a note.
Is our barrier to green infrastructure that we don't mention enough alternatives so people don't know what to do?
Not sure.
And maybe maybe part of my question was, you know, how are we controlling? How would we control what it becomes?
Yeah.
Not questioning the intent, but
Yes, sure. I mean, certainly we still have our city standard specs, so we wouldn't allow a subdivision to go out and use permeable pavers. I'm sure just due to plowing operations and all that good stuff on a public road. So the application for that kind of thing would be pretty limited, but I think it's just in there for kind of like the mayor said, just to indicate it exists.
What if someone wanted to do their driveway and such a thing, and that's an option for them, but with plowing we wouldn't choose to put it on our
So yeah,
public
the green,
roads.
The green infrastructure definition specifies permeable pavements as an option, so then you have to define permeable pavements.
Yeah.
I think it's just a cyclical.
Any other comments or questions? Looks mostly not all that impactful, just kind of cleaning it up a little bit, with the exception of maybe putting some provisions in there to strengthen the need to get some of these features installed in a timely manner. Which is probably good because it's a blind spot currently. There's really nothing saying when they have to be done, so there's an implication that maybe they don't have to be done. Question? Commissioner
The
Schaefer?
additional cost to developers or landowners refers to new development, right?
Yeah, new or redevelopment, I would say, would be kind of what the stormwater stuff applies
If
to.
you
Mhm.
go put that 5,000 square foot addition on your house, you're gonna
I think I'll
trigger
have
an
other
event.
problems if I do.
Keep it at
Okay.
4,900.
Commissioner Parrish?
But nothing retroactively, Cole?
Correct.
Okay,
All
just new
grandfathered.
construction? Okay, so everything's grandfathered historically. Thank you. Nice job on the revisions, by the way.
Agree. Any further comments or questions? If not, is there a motion to approve these on to council with maybe some minor edits from the attorney? I guess if there's substantive comments, they'll come back here, but
Correct. Yep.
Move to approve as written.
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And that goes on to council. Next meeting, Monday, September 23rd, so enjoy your August. And next, we need just one final motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks.